All right. Peter and Paul, if you'd like to come back to you and give the opportunity to reflect back to us what you heard and your reflections on that.
I have a few comments I'd like to share with you. I once was in the situation where I did lose people's data about 10 years ago, and someone mentioned that possibility. It's the worst feeling in the world. I think the technology's gotten better, but as you could tell from our problems getting hooked up to start with tonight, it's still got a ways to go. One of the things that I've come to believe about virtual meetings is, and in fact all electronically assisted meetings, is that you should only use the tools about 20 or 30% of the time. Use them to get things up on the table that wouldn't come out normally. Get people to identify, maybe anonymously, which things to talk about. And then once they're out on the table, it's okay to talk about them. So I think some of you touched on those aspects. Also, I'd like to say I totally agree that you can't just jump into these things without developing trust and rapport in the group. We cut out the go around the table and determine who's in the room and let us understand that, let you meet each other because of the technology, but the technology issues. But that is an essential part. If you don't have trust and communications, then no amount of technology will ever replace that. The last thing I'd like to comment on is your comments on asynchronous use of technology. I think that's right on the asynchronous use of technology, the ability to use it maybe before the meeting or after the meeting. I don't know if you can still see my screen. But on the right-hand side, I just started all of those activities, and there's a menu. So we often put up a menu of items for people to comment on maybe a week or so before the meeting. Sometimes during the meeting, we don't even use the technology. We just use it before the meeting. And sometimes we'll use it after the meeting. And then if we use it during the meeting, it only takes 20 or 30% of the time. We also do have, somebody mentioned the anonymous part. We take great advantage in that, but we also use attribution sometimes. So those are my comments. I don't know if, Paul, are you still on the line?
Which Paul?
Either Paul.
Okay, I found the discussion this is Paul Collins. When you mentioned you had two practitioners on the line, I felt left out here because I'm the third one from Chicago, but that's okay. I found the discussion very good. I've had trouble hearing it, following it a lot of the times because someone would get into a very interesting point, and then the sound quality would be such that I couldn't understand what was going on. In one of the brainstorming things that we did, Peter, I took some notes, and those are gone now from the screen, so I can't get into them right now. But I took a few notes about things that people had said that I could hear. And one of them was that this seems to be a constant metric. In my experience, I've been doing this since the early 90s. And this idea of 10 people in a certain amount of time, 10 or 15 minutes, being able to generate 150 ideas or more, that's a pretty standard metric. I think what Peter hit on, the fact that anonymity is an important thing, an important way to surface ideas. Someone posed the question during the conversation, actually it was before your conversation, how long should virtual meetings be? And my response to that is that depends. But no virtual meeting should be longer than an hour and a half, 2 hours max, unless people are extremely engaged. I've had experiences where we've set meetings for an hour and a half, and people have demanded to continue because they were really engaged. And in that case, fine, we'll let it go. Peter made another good point about the use of technology should not be 100% of the time. Conversation is important. Engagement is important, especially when you're virtual. We've also, though, found that there's useful ways of using this with face-to-face, that you can get people engaged in face-to-face sessions doing this, using this technology. And, people are interested in that. We can tell some war stories or some real pleasant experiences of having used this in face-to-face sessions. That's about, again, I wish I had been able to follow all the other conversations because there were some very good things that I would have liked to have engaged in a discussion about, but there we go. The phone quality wasn't that great.
I think Paul in Spain is back on.
Yeah, I'm back. Peter, can you bring in the last tool you created? Because I was making some notes there also.
Oh, which
Cognizant, we've got about 5 minutes left.
Yep.
which tool?
The last one
you had
created.
Lean.
Yes, Lean Coffee. Yeah,
I added on my tool. Yes, I was really surprised to see how the group was starving for face-to-face interaction in this particular case. I do recognize that this creates a challenge for the local facilitator in order to have a proper meeting with the participants that are from outside. That's really the challenge. But I'm pleased that you all attended this session and that at least you have experienced a little bit of our methods of using people's brains to create something that's greater than the sum of individual participants. Although I recognize that without certain kind of bonding initially, that we didn't have the time to do it, and then we lost that time on being excluded from your face-to-face conversations that I could capture very, very with difficulty. It's really interesting. I got lots of learning from this session, and thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Well, okay, thank you as well for sharing that time, particularly in the not friendly time zones that you're currently occupying. And is there any last thoughts from the room?
I think, thank you. I think this is a really interesting conversation we had, and some of the challenges that we faced in using this particular technology was actually really good fodder for, I thought, a very interesting conversation and sharing. So my appreciation to the group and to the presenters for providing this opportunity.
Thank you, and all for the preparation you put into this, and for taking the chance to do something which, if I put myself in your position as presenter, I wouldn't have slept for a week before doing the session, because I think it's really challenging for you. So I honor you and appreciate you for helping us learn. Thank you.
Yes.
Right.
My comment is, in a perverse way, I'm really pleased that it went the way it did, because you provoked a whole lot of things for us to challenge ourselves around. And instead of it being a fairy tale experience where you struggle to emulate, how am I going to do that? It's the realization that it's a minefield and we need to step carefully.
Yeah, and the need for practice and repeat. I mean, as a once-off session, I think it underlines that need for practice and for operationalising use of 1 to 2 tools only.
It can work, but we have to work out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen.
Great job.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate. And
Okay, thank you. Enjoy.
Good night.
absolutely. Yep.
Enjoy the Congress. Bye.
Bye.